Check, chest, check, check. I think we're ready to go. All right. Doc Rivers continues to time and time again not get it when it comes to getting. Oh! Let him play!
You bet one bone to win 19. What site do you use where you can actually bet $1? Because
they let you do 50-cent bets.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah, literally, like he dropped Superman down like the drain, comes out, and like, God damn it, Superman. I don't know, honey. I don't know where he got that from.
From Los Angeles, this is Dave in the City.
Part of the Dit Cow Sports Network.
Now, here's Dave Medina.
Good evening, sports fans, and a pleasure to have you here for the big Dit Cow football show tonight. We're going to take a break from football. We're going to cover some MLB talk, and we have a good series of guests to help us do it. Joining us for the front end of the program, we're going to be talking to Jerry Will, our resident baseball expert here on the program. And then at half past, we're going to be joined by Andy in Seattle, who will join both of us to continue the conversation. Lots to talk about with the early goings in the season. A lot of juice, particularly in the two biggest markets, LA and New York, having an incredible start to their season. And I don't just mean the Yankees. I don't just mean the Dodgers. I mean the Angels and the Mets. They are on fire to start. Both teams at the top of the standings. Things are looking good. So let's go bring in our good friend. It's that time. I mean, you can see that the weather is slowly warming up across the country, and things are good. We have much to discuss. So let's say hello to Jerry Will. Welcome back, my friend. How's it going?
Dave, it's been a while, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I love the clock in the back and everything else. I mean, life is good.
Yeah, I'm on an older computer. So my backgrounds are gone, and it won't let me blur my background. So now you get a look at some of the house decor. So,
well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I saw what you were trying to do for the background. It looked amazing.
Yeah, that didn't work.
Gotta get yourself a green screen, my friend, or something.
I know. Well, this is an older Mac. My work computer is like brand new, but I should use that, but it's in the other room.
Okay, no problem. Well, good to have you here. Well, first of all, let's give it up to the season for starting. I think a lot of people were sure that the season would be locked out by July, and here we are. We're already a month into the season. They didn't miss any regular season games. It's just a tremendous situation. I don't know if I give anybody credit for it. I don't want to do a Manfred bashing tonight. We're gonna save that for another time. But
if we did a Manfred bashing, we'd be on here for 3 hours.
Exactly. Nothing that you wouldn't say that hasn't already been said, and I would agree with all of it anyway. So it's definitely, I think we all kind of are on the same page with that one. But it's great to see that they got the season off, and I don't know exactly what the scenarios were, but good for them. I mean, it's refreshing to see it, and people are getting into it. I mean, you can see, all the teams are starting. It's kind of competitive. Really a good scenario to start. Local teams looking good, obviously, as far as our two markets are concerned. Not really the case in Chicago. Oh, wow.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you expected it with the Cubs, but the White Sox a little slow too, actually. It's interesting, but
yeah.
Where do you want to start with this? I mean, I thought we would just start on the lockout scenario. We don't have to waste too much time. We can get into the here and the now. But I think the one thing that I'm sure all of us noticed together, lower scoring games, like everywhere. And the thing I noticed about it is I just got some information about it today in that more teams are using the humidor across baseball, not just Colorado. And I think that is the biggest factor here. And I think it's a good thing. I don't even think it's bad. Like, people are like, I've noticed I'm a consummate degenerate. I'm looking at the over-unders, and they're also low. Like they used to be around 9, and now they're around 7, 7.5, 8. It's not a bad thing. I think it's good that baseball is kind of a little bit less crazy with the scoring. So, Cap, we can start there. Jared, well,
sure.
I mean,
yeah, man. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
We do a couple of these every year. I know life gets in the way, and a lot of things are going on. I know you're a big Twitch star. You got a lot going on. You've been killing it there, man.
Thanks.
I see a lot of the TikToks and all that. You're killing it on there. So I'm happy that you're building a brand and building your niche there. You're doing a great job. But it's always good to come on and talk baseball with you. And as far as, the offense, obviously, I think it's weird. And again, not to get on Manfred, but how it's not a bigger story that they use some balls in some environments, different balls in national, televised games, and they do in maybe just a Tuesday night in the Bronx. Like, it just doesn't make any sense why that's not a bigger story. It was front page news on every big news station when Tom Brady let a little bit of air out of the ball. Right. Now you have the commissioner literally changing the balls as he pleases. I think that, I don't know how that's not a bigger story, but yeah, offense is down. I think for a couple factors is, number one, I think that pitching has hit a new level. I feel like,
I'm with you on that.
Between the analytics, between, some of the freaks of these, out of the bullpen, you got guys throwing, if you throw 94, 95 out of the bullpen, you almost look like, oh, he's not throwing that hard. That's how sick some of these bullpens are. That's a factor. Obviously, the dead balls are a factor. And I think a major factor, as you start seeing year after year, is the shift. Teams are getting really good analytically on where to position guys for every batter pretty much. And whether it's 4 outfielders, whether it's guys shifted all the way to the right, all the way to the left, whatever it is, that's, really cranking down on the runs as well. So a couple different factors, why offenses are down in baseball. And obviously early on too, the weather, I think, plays a factor. Mm-hmm. I've watched a bunch of games that probably in the summer months, the ball might be 3 or 4 rows into the seats. So I think that plays a little bit of a factor, but yeah, it's no surprise. And there's a stat that I don't know if you go by, Dave. It's WRC plus.
I do,
but I use it. Yeah, so we use it, right? And that obviously goes by what the league is doing. What the league average is, and you look at some of these guys' slash lines, and then you look at their WRC plus, and it's either average or above average, and you're like, how is that possible? And it's possible because the whole league is having offensive issues. So I guess it's something to watch as the weather warms up. Listen, the weather's warm in California, right?
Right.
There's still some offensive issues in some warm weather areas. So it's going to be something to watch as the summer goes on. But definitely a different brand of game right now. Next year, they're going to potentially modify the shift rule, which I think will definitely help offenses and making the games a little bit more exciting. Mm-hmm. But right now, it's very clear offenses are down. Very clear.
Yeah, it hasn't really bothered me as much as you might think it would. Like, I don't think it's really such a bad deal. Like, it's kind of like nice to not have to know that a team can hold a lead and things like that. Granted, that doesn't stop some bullpens. Clearly the Nationals and the Red Sox bullpens are so atrocious. It doesn't matter what the ball is or whatever else. Like, they still are going to get up the lead. But it is definitely something I noticed right away. Like, it was like, wow, this is interesting. Sometimes you're going to get shutouts. You had 2 games. You saw this because they both involved the Yankees. The Yankees had 2 no-hit bids on back-to-back days. They're not back-to-back games because there's a doubleheader, but that's still pretty crazy. Like,
there's a no-hit bid tonight, Dave. The Yankees are getting no-hit in the bottom of the 6th. Yeah. Yeah, it's like every other night you feel like there's like a potential no-hitter alert. But funny. It's crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. But, it's just kind of emblematic of what's been happening. But I have to say, you mentioned a point about the pitching being a big factor, and I kind of agree with it. I think pitching in general has just been good. I'm really impressed by the stuff everybody's got, whether it's folks with their 92-mile-an-hour sliders or guys with just a fastball that goes like 99 or 100. And you even still have guys like Calico. Calico's probably like one of very, very, like maybe 1% of people that can still get it done with slow stuff, but he gets it done.
Mr. Cortez, right?
Yeah,
Cortez throws 93, gets it done.
Another good example. Yeah, so
it's crazy.
There's a great variety of pitching that's out there right now, and I think that's just crossing up hitters, and that's okay. I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily. And we'll see if the offenses will catch up. They always do. Like in July, you're going to see these massive scoring games, tons of home runs. But it doesn't bother me. I like it. I think it's kind of challenging teams to make more productive outs. We saw a little bit of it on Sunday with the Dodgers. Had some productive outs to score. Then they started like.
Then they tagged it, yeah.
but still, it was cool to see it in the middle of the game.
But not every team's the Dodgers, right? Not every team has that explosive lineup.
Yeah.
And the teams that are good to pretty good, they're having trouble scoring runs. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, 100%. And if you look at some of the worst case examples of the teams that are at the bottom of this, did we break the no hitter?
We got a hit. We broke the no hitter.
All right. Let's just start. And I think the Yankees are only down by 3, so it's not like
3-0. So it's not insurmountable.
Plenty
but they've
of-
scored they've scored 5 runs in their past 4 games. So again,
but they
offenses
won,
are down.
They won one of them, right? Like
They're fine. Yeah, their pitching's been lights out. I mean, I'm not worried about them. I think their offense will.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some guys in the offense I do worry about, but I think that at the end of the day, there should be enough there, backed by our pitching, that they should win enough games. To be in October. But
they're gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine. Like I mean, they're off to a great start. Like they're way at the top of the division. I think they were 10 over. I'm trying to remember, but
they're 20-8 right now.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. So just getting back into offenses. So I'm looking at Fangraphs, and I mean, you're looking at some, and you know what's amazing? So I was texting with Sports Pope on Sunday about the Red Sox, and you can't use tonight's game as an example. This is a kind of a fluky game right now where they're up 6-3, but this is the worst offense I've ever seen from the Red Sox. I just can't remember the Red Sox having sub 100 WRC team with WRC plus. It's never.
How many guys in the offense right now, since you're looking at it, have WRC plus over 100?
Yeah, that's a hell of a question. Let me go click over and find out. It's a good question. Let me go look.
If I had to say off the top of my head, I'm going to say Devers, I'm going to say JD, I'm going to say Rafi, and I'm going to say that's it.
Is this up to date? It's kind of weird. Actually, more than you think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But the problem with it is that you have to get people who've had at least 10 starts. So I have to take out 3 people from here.
Yes, yeah. Put the qualified guys in there or whatever.
So the qualified guys then, you're looking at Bogarts with 157 WRC plus, JD 148 makes sense. Devers, like you said, 136. The next one down, Christian Vasquez 65.
Jeez, that's the next one.
Yes.
Oh my God! I knew that their offense was sputtering. I didn't know it was that bad to the point where Christian Vasquez was their next best hitter with a 65 WRC plus. That's absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened to Trevor Story. I mean, you and I have him in fantasy. I mean, every night I look -3, -3, -3. I mean, the guy is just a mess. The core splits are coming to life, Dave.
Yeah. Well, that's very, very interesting point you make there. What's interesting about Story tonight specifically is that he came into this series with Atlanta having the second best OPS in the history in
that ballpark?
In that ballpark ever. Or maybe not that ballpark, but Atlanta. Let's say Atlanta, just to be specific. But and it's just crazy. Like the first 2 at bats, I just saw the last one right here. I got the game on. So he popped up and then he lined out. So it's like that number means nothing right now. He's just having such a miserable year. I just wonder what's going on. Like, maybe you're right. Maybe it is the core split. Maybe he's just, I'm not want to say that he's not that good, but he's having a rough time.
I think it's a couple things. I think it's, this isn't Colorado anymore. And you saw that he blew off the media after he had a 4 strikeout game. Maybe that'll go under the radar in Colorado. It was front page news in Boston. It was on the sports talks in Boston. It was all over Red Sox Twitter. I mean, I'm not going to say the guy can't handle the pressure, but when you start off slow in a pressure cooker like that, and then the team starts off slow and they're looking at you like, hey, we just gave you a contract for 6 years. Did he get it? Nope. We just gave you a contract for 6 years. What are you doing to help us? I think that pressure could weigh on him. And I think he's pressing. I mean, look, I think he's a better player than what he's showing right now. And eventually I think that he will start to get some results. But starting off slow on a new team, especially when that team starts off slow, I think that it puts a lot of pressure on the player who's trying to fit in, trying to figure out his way, even personal wise. He signed late, Dave. So, figuring his way around the city, where to live and things like that. I think it's a lot on him while the team's getting beaten down by the media and the fans. It's a lot. Listen, I don't think he's the guy he was in Colorado. Do I think he's better than what he's showing now? I'm going to be fair and say I think he is.
Absolutely.
But it's going to be interesting to see what he does as the season goes on.
It's interesting looking at the Red Sox. We talked about the futility at the plate, but the pitching isn't doing much better. And it's pitching. It's interesting. Look, so they went up 6-0 tonight against Atlanta. Does anybody in America think that lead is safe? No. In fact, it's already been cut in half. So,
What inning is that? We got over there?
At this point, I think they're at the 4th. Let me see. No, the 5th.
Oh,
the
then,
5th.
yeah.
Fifth
So
inning.
there's plenty of game left, especially in Atlanta with that lineup. So
And you know Andy's
get
going to
it.
agree with that. Like when he gets
Is
in
Andy
here,
popping on?
he should be, yeah, in about 15 minutes.
Cool.
So yeah, it'll be
Cool.
fun talking to him too. He'll has a lot to say about the Red Sox, no doubt. You know, he
I'm
follows
sure.
them all the time.
I'm sure.
It's just a tough time to be a Red Sox fan. It's just too bad. And it's weird that their payroll is so expensive, and yet they barely look like a Major League Baseball team right now. So
Don't
weird.
forget Chris Sale eats up a big part of that.
Yeah,
And even worse. And as much as I love to say not to pile on to the Red Sox, I love to fucking pile on to the Red Sox. But to make things even worse, I mean, Bogarts basically declined their little rinky-dinky offer for an extension. I mean, the Yankees gave Judge a much fairer offer than the Red Sox did Bogarts. Bogarts said no.
Mm-hmm.
Bogarts is probably out the door this year. If Bogarts is out the door this year, do you look to trade Rafael Devers, who also had his issues with his extension talks? JD Martinez is a free agent. Obviously Chris Sale is, who knows when he's going to be back and what he's going to look like when he gets back. This Red Sox team could look completely different next year. And you figured this year was going to be, quote unquote, their last kind of, not even their last run, because they could easily bring back Bogarts or easily bring back Devers. But if they go into the All-Star break, and again, it's extremely early. The Yankees erased a 6.5 game lead on the Red Sox last year. But if they go into the All-Star break or the deadline and they're 7 or 8 games out, it's going to be an interesting decision where, do we let these guys walk or do we trade and get something for them? And if they trade and get something for them, Dave, I don't know what they're going to look like next year. Their farm system, I think they have Cassis, who's going to be probably closer than most, is their first baseman. But, Bobby Dahlbach has looked absolutely terrible. They're getting nothing, like you said, from the catcher position.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Bradley Jr. is what he is. He's a very good outfielder, and that's pretty much about it. What are they going to look like next year, Dave?
Yeah.
They're stuck with Trevor Story now. It's a team that went to the ALCS last year. For the GM and the owner, I mean, listen, they paid Trevor Story. That's fine. I don't think Trevor Story was a major need. I think if they would have fortified the rotation and some of the bullpen, their bullpen's a mess, Dave. They have Hansel Robles trying to close games in the ninth. Their bullpen's an absolute mess.
Not good.
So, I mean, if they were able to fortify that coming into the season, it might look like a different team. You know what I mean? So, but it's going to be interesting to see how things move forward.
Yeah. I would be very interested in you asking Andy the same question when he comes in about what would they do at the deadline. I'd love to hear his response because I'm curious as to where he's at. He's not happy with the GM. He thinks he really bungled a lot of things. And this could have been a very, very good team. But I think you have some people going a little cheap on some of the deals and overspending on others. And to be fair, Sale was a Dave Dombrowski signing. So that was years and years ago.
It was. And you know what? I mean, to be honest with you, Sale probably was the right deal to make. I mean, you gave up what you got to give up, but you got a world championship out of it. So the problem, Dave, was the Sale extension. You didn't have to do that. They got their championship, then they gave them the extension, and the extension is looking really, really, really bad. So that's kind of where they kind of foobarred it right there. And you could say the same for the Yankees. Hey, you shouldn't have given CeCe the extension. Fair criticism.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you got your championship, and you felt like he had some more left in the tank, and gave both of those guys extensions, and probably didn't turn out the way you'd want it to.
Yeah, we're very well said. I mean, there are a lot of different things. It's not just any one thing or another thing. There's a lot of things going on there. Several franchises have really come undone in the last 3 years. The Cubs is a really famous example, but everybody kind of saw that one coming. Nationals, same thing. Like, once you can only get rid of so many superstars. I think we got some action here. Cap has just muted himself.
Let's go! 3-run homer stand to tie the fucking game.
There we go, folks.
Let's go.
See? Right back in the mix. Tied up at 3. Yankees 3. You guys
Sorry
still playing
about that.
Texas? You guys still playing Texas?
No, playing Toronto.
Oh,
so
that's
it's
right.
a pretty big game.
Forgot. Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah, it was funny. I was just, I'm not that big on Toronto. I think you already know that, but.
Yeah, you know what, Dave? I'm going to give you credit because when the whole world was on Toronto, you were like, I don't know. And, I was big on Toronto. Their offense scared me. I thought their pitching moves made, and you were like, I don't think they're that much better than they were last year.
No.
You called that early.
No. Yeah, thanks. I mean, look, it's the thing. I think the thing that sticks with me is that I just don't think the offense is as good as everybody says it is. Like, I know that their ratings and everything are great, but you put them against good pitchers and they don't really do much, and that's the difference. That's a big difference. Like, I think what can you do against guys with great stuff? And just my impression of it is they seem to like to pile on teams that have shitty pitching, especially in July.
Might have a little bit of a brawl here, Dave.
For what?
Stan hit a home run. Then they drilled Donaldson. The Yankees are on the top step. Judge pointed at the pitcher and said, I fucking got you. All right. I like it. We got some juice.
All right. You know where I am with unwritten. You know my deal with unwritten rules. I think it's nonsense.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
But
a lot of them are like nonsense, man.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna fight, go fight. You know, none of this drill somebody in the ball. Go fight them. Like, if you're gonna fight, do it like hockey. Go fight. You go do an actual fight. Like that makes more sense to me. So, anyway, let's continue. You know what? But I give it to Tampa Bay too. Tampa Bay is having a nice start. They continue to be so interesting because, they just keep getting it done. They're not necessarily the flashiest team. They're not necessarily the guys with the most superstars, and they've even gotten rid of guys. I think I don't know where
they tossed him, Dave. They threw him out.
Wait, who?
They threw the manager out. It's bedlam in the Bronx right now.
Oh boy. Why did they drill Donaldson? For what?
I guess he was the guy up right at, you know how that thing goes. Maybe Giancarlo Stanton pimped a home run or something. I didn't see because I just looked up and the ball was in the air.
You see this again. This is another example of baseball players being too sensitive. It's like, come on, it's sports. Yep. Relax. People do it in all the other sports all the time. Oh my God, he celebrated a home run. Like, I'd have to see it. To be fair, I need to see it. Like, I need to see it too, Dave. Honestly, the ball it hit the top of the wall, went over. So maybe he was walking to see if it went out or not. I have to see it too. I don't know, but I mean, when you give up a home run and drill to the next batter, I mean, you got to expect that something could potentially happen, right? Yeah.
I don't know.
But just go back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they come up with the idea that hitting a guy with a baseball is a solution to this problem? Like,
I don't know.
Still can't understand how that ever made sense. Like, this is justice. It's also dangerous.
It is very. I mean, you could injure somebody. You could, ruin somebody's career.
Yeah.
It is dangerous, and that's why I think baseball players, they get it sometimes. Like there was an instance recently. It was Arenado, I think. That with the Mets, when the ball came up and in, he was like, if you're going to hit me like in the ribs, not up by the head. And that's what kind of started the whole thing. So, the unwritten rules, like you said, which I think are stupid, they're still there.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go by the quote unquote unwritten rules, do it the right way. Hit somebody in the butt, hit somebody in the ribs. Don't throw it by somebody's head.
Right. I mean, just like you said, like if you're going to have to go resort to such stupidity, at least do it below the waist.
Right.
Like,
I want to ask you a question, not to shift gears here, but
no, let's go. I think it's a good idea. Actually, I don't want to stay on that topic.
What are your thoughts on these streaming games?
Oh, that's an interesting
one,
question.
Right?
I wanted to get to that. Like, okay, so let's just break this down a little bit. So there have been a lot of different new avenues for baseball this year, and the first of them is the TBS game moving their weekly game from Sunday to Tuesday. And I'll be honest with you, I love the move. It gives me more of a chance to watch their games because when it's buried on Sunday with all the other games, and then you have ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, I just never saw it. I never even knew it was on. Like, I just never knew. And then suddenly, like, the last 2 weeks, like, oh, there's a TBS game. Let me go put it on. And then I did. And I'm doing it again. Granted, I'm betting on it, but it certainly is kind of nice to have a game that I can get to. Local blackouts, obviously, are in effect, too. But it's a good spot. I got to say, that's pretty cool. And now to get to the set streaming aspect of it, this is what you were getting at. So there are 2 other series that they've enacted for the season. Actually, 3. But the original one was a YouTube game, which is still going. But then they had an Apple Plus TV, Apple TV Plus game, which is confusing to me because I don't know if we're on Apple TV or if we're if you can watch it on the web or if you can watch it on TV. I don't know where this game is. I went down the
It's
website
chaos.
and found it. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad idea to keep putting the games on different things. I think it's actually a good call. And same scenario for Peacock. And to start it off on Sunday, NBC/Comcast put the first game in that series on NBC proper, like the NBC. I think that's really cool. I thought that was a great way to kick that off. The rest of them will be on Peacock, which is fine.
Right. We got a Peacock game tomorrow at 12:30, which pisses me off.
Wait,
it's the middle of the
so
week.
these are exclusive games? Like you can't get them on the Yes Network?
No, I don't believe I can get them on Yes, and it's 12:35 in the middle of the day.
tricky.
So like with the streaming, I get like so MLB's whole thing is obviously grow the game, right?
Right.
MLB has a lot of older fans. Like my mom, my parents, my friends' parents will text them, "What channel is the game on? I can't find the game. It's on this streaming service. It's on that streaming service. I don't have it. I don't have it." That's a problem. I go out to the bar, go out to dinner, my girlfriend, whatever. We're at happy hour at a bar. I want to watch the Yankee game. I can't watch the Yankee game at the bar. You know what I mean? No one's going to make, say, can I log into your Peacock? A buddy of mine had to run around Hoboken finding a bar that allowed him to log into his Amazon. That's my only issue with it.
But here's the thing. All right. So the game needs to get younger. We know that. The audience also needs to get younger. We can't keep catering to older people. I think it's actually a net positive to me. I mean, Andy's going to have an opinion on this too. And let me go bring him into the show in just
Andy,
a second.
man, what's up, brother?
Andy, what is going on, my friend?
What's up? I missed the beginning. I just, I'm here. I'll have to listen to the first 25
You're in Augusta, I see.
I am, yeah. Because I haven't changed my background when I was on with Mike in Jersey and John in Connecticut, also known as Checker and Panther Shark, when doing the Masters show. But I'm in Butler's cabin right now.
I love it. Listen, you guys do a great job, by the way, whether it's the football or the Masters. I listen to it. I'm up early as shit at the gym, whether I'm on the treadmill. I always listen when Dave puts out a show. So you guys do a really good job.
Yeah, Ron's football draft was
great.
Was
dude, super informative, man.
A great job out of Ron. I think it's really good stuff last couple weeks ago. But I mean, so just to catch you up, Andy, we were mostly talking about the Red Sox and how much of a mess they are right now.
They suck. They suck. I know. I mean, so when Captain's on here, it's like it's a calm version of Captain, and
Well, you can go back and watch the video and stand and hit a 3-run home run. I had to put myself on mute, so you'll see a little bit of that.
And then the Twitter captain when he's like, and we talk about the Red Sox, and I love when he's like, Dahlbach sucks. He does suck, and the Red Sox are trash. And
Dahlbach's personal because he was one of my fantasy keepers and he fucked me. So
he's so bad. But I know you guys already talked about. But if I just had like a 30-second analysis on the Sox. So 2020 was like a wash with COVID, the lame duck old man manager, 58 games or whatever. 2021, I would argue that was like a surprise, like they're a year ahead from being a year away scenario, and they got to the ALCS and it was peaches and cream or whatever. And then this year it's been an awful first 30 plus games or whatever. And if it continues, and I don't see any inclination why it won't continue, like that's a huge black mark on Chaim Bloom, because the Red Sox fan base, they foam at the mouth. They're irrational. They react, and they have
same way we do.
Unrealistic expectations, whatever. Motion on their sleeve, whatever you want to call it. And he'll get eaten alive. Like Trevor Story will get eaten alive. Whether it's right or wrong, he'll get eaten alive. And they have Garrett Whitlock, great. And they have just like the way they constructed their bullpen and their first base situation, it's just gaping holes. Yeah. And their starting pitching hasn't been horrible, but as you know, the starting pitching leash these days, it's very short. So Rich Hill can give you 4-5 great innings. Okay, right. What about innings 6 through 9? You're just going to play roulette with these fucking clowns.
Yeah.
And now the Garrett Whitlock is a starter because you have to accentuate his ability. And and Sale's not coming back till late June, and who knows what you're going to get with Sale. And Evaldi, as good as he's been, he's at the end of his rope. And like I said, Waka's been great, but
he's been
hurt.
Great, man. Yeah, I know. I had him as a start on Sunday, and I was like, "What the fuck is he on the IL?"
Yeah, his hip or whatever. So
yeah,
like they have decent starting pitching, but they're not horses.
Right.
Dave, you got to bring that up at some point too. The lack of the horse, and then
Yep.
Yeah, their lineup though, like still looking on paper is like
crazy.
It's good, but like they just haven't been hitting, and I know it's been cold everywhere, and but their bullpen is atrocious, and they're 11-20 or something like that, and it's so I just root with my wallet at this point.
Yeah, this is my as irrational and as I like to troll. Listen, I'll this is my fair assessment or take on the Red Sox. Is coming into the season. Obviously, their offense I thought was very, very good. Devers, Bogarts, and JD scare the piss out of me. They're really, really good. Middle of the order. But seeing that when you went to the ALCS last year, to not fortify the rotation or the bullpen, I thought was a swing and a miss. Now, listen, they spent money on Story, fine. But like Dave and I were just talking about, it's difficult. Trevor Story signing late, coming to Boston, which is a pressure cooker. It's not Colorado anymore. And Andy, you can tell, you follow the team every day. When you go 0 for 4 and they blow off the media, maybe in Colorado they get swept under the rug. In Boston, that's front page news. And that's not something he's used to. And, my thing with the Red Sox is, listen, it is an extremely long season. Like Andy says, let the season breathe, right? Last year, the Yankees eliminated, a 6.5 game lead against the Red Sox? I mean, it is a very, very long season. My only thing is, in this division, in my opinion, you have 3 teams that are very, very good that are now ahead of the Red Sox. With the expanded playoffs, could the Red Sox be in the mix? Sure, if they get it going. But you got the Angels who will look a lot better. Obviously, you got Houston. You got the 3 in-division teams. So there are other teams in the mix. And Anthony Rizzo said, look, we need to get off to a good start because you can't win the division in April, but you can fucking lose it. Yeah. And that's kind of what's happening here. And again, we have 4 more months of this shit. So the Red Sox could figure it out. Maybe they bring up a guy like Tristan Casas and he gives the lineup a boost. And now you got him, Devers, JD, Xander, and they're mashing and they're able to get you some wins. Who knows? It's a very long season, but you just don't want to continue to put yourself behind the 8 ball, this early on. And for the Red Sox, if I were them, I just want to scratch away and get some wins, get back in the win column, figure out a way to get wins and then see what happens, over the next couple months. But I agree with you. Their bullpen does not worry me as an opposing, team. And, the offense is the only thing that scares me. And right now me and Dave went through it. There's 3 guys on your offense with an above average offensive numbers. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And believe me, my team's 20-8. They're not perfect. I think that their pitching is 1 through 14 is phenomenal. But the offensive inconsistency is something that has worried me from the beginning of even the offseason when the lockout came. Even after their additions, I said, is it enough to make their offense consistent? I think their offense is better. I think it's a much better team because they could actually field the ground ball, which is nice. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. I think our division is very tough. I think that, Dave's division is very tough. Everybody in this podcast division is very tough. I think right now the Red Sox have put themselves in a little bit of a hole with 3 teams in front of them that are very, very good baseball teams. So they're really going to have to get it going sooner than later.
Yeah, it's just like Tommy's all that you can root for your Mariners when your Red Sox. So it's true. Like at least the Mariners, and they can't get out of their own way right now. They've lost 9 out of 11, but
they're going to be okay.
They have youth.
Yeah.
There's just a different vibe to it. The Red Sox, as you mentioned, Bogarts, JD, and Story and Devers, they don't look like they're having a good time. There's just something stale about them. And the bullpen, as we've just documented, it's just not good. And you mentioned Toronto. I don't think Toronto's going to regress. The Yankees will, they'll hum along. Angels, we'll see. The Central, forget about. But the Twinks and the White Sox, obviously. But the Red Sox, and we could make that argument their closer in September and it could be pitching somewhere else right now. You don't know what's going to happen in July or whatever.
So Dave, that was a question Dave wanted to bring up to you.
Yes,
And again, I want to say this too. We have our fun obviously with the Red Sox, and it's the Red Sox only like the Yankees, the Yankees only like the Red Sox. But I respect guys like you and Ron. Like, you guys are legit good fans I could have a baseball conversation with. Like, some Red Sox fans that I know will just tell me how much we suck. Like, even if we're 20-7, you guys suck. Can't have a conversation with them. You guys I can. So, I definitely feel for, you guys with going through this. But Dave had the question he asked me, and he's like, when Andy gets on here, I want to ask Andy this question. So Dave, take it away.
Well, no, it's actually your question. So the question that Cap had, which I think is brilliant, what do the Red Sox do at the trade deadline in the middle of the season? Are they going to start Are they going to start trading all their big names? Are they going to trade Devers, or do they try to stay pat and try to build around that? What do you think they do there, Andy?
I don't know. Well, so from the whole Devers and Bogarts innuendo, that the Heyman thing with the source last week, I don't know if that's there's been no follow up to that, but the story was friend says X-Man is out after this year.
Yeah.
So who knows? And another, if they wanted to have any sort of optics, they would they'd do something with Devers or Xander sooner than later, just to show the fan base that hey, we're not just twiddling our thumbs or whatever. And I talked to my dad the other day. He's like, why can't and Jerry's had his gripes with his GM's.
Absolutely.
It's why can't more teams in the big markets do what Los Angeles is basically on their own island now. I'm talking about the Dodgers. They spend and they can spend, and they don't care about the luxury tax or the payroll tax or whatever. At the end of the day, it's not our money. It's not Dave. It's not your money. No. It's it's the ownership's money. So why they just spend? Who cares? There's no there's the haves and the have-nots obviously in MLB, and it's just to go lose 100 games, win 90 games. It's a yo-yo. I don't like it. I don't like it.
I hear you.
And but in terms of middle of the season acquisitions, I'm not sure. With pitching, I say this is a league-wide thing. Back in the day, you'd have good starting pitchers on crappy teams, but they would be horses. They'd have a body of work. They'd have crappy win-loss records, but they'd have good ERAs. And you look at their baseball card, you know what I mean? Besides Madison Bumgarner, who's on a crappy team, who's even out there in July? Luis Castillo on the Reds.
Castillo, Molly. I mean, who knows? Yeah.
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 And that used to be something that was always fun in the middle of the season, the good starting pitchers on floundering teams, and they end up going on, good baseball.
That always happened.
Verlander was a great example of that.
Verlander,
great example. Yeah.
Cliff Lee back in the day. Yeah.
Even
Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
It's funny, Dave. I mean, Andy mentioned obviously LA. It's fantasy baseball. If you look over the past, I would say, when did Betts sign? 19, right? So you look over the past 3 years and you tell me prior to 2019, prior to 2020, and prior to 2021, if you ask, hey, give me some MVP candidates, Betts was going to be one.
Yep.
Trey Turner was absolutely going to be one, at least in my mind. Trey Turner is a monster.
In 18,
then
right?
you sign an actual MVP in Freddie Freeman.
Right.
I mean, 3 years in a row, you signed MVP candidates. And don't forget, you got Max Scherzer in the middle of a pennant race. So, I mean, what LA does, I think, is phenomenal. They're doing whatever it takes to win. And honestly, the Mets are going to be in that category too.
Yeah.
At this point, it is what it is.
Where's Max Scherzer today? He's with the Mets.
Yeah, Steve Cohen doesn't give a shit, man. He spent $1 million on it. He doesn't care. So the Mets are going to be. Yeah. The Mets are going to be. But I will say this. I mean, and I can tell you firsthand, spend the money the right way. Because if you're sitting there with a $250 million payroll and you have dead money all over your fucking roster, I've seen it. Spend the money the right way.
Mm-hmm. No, it's well said. Well said. We got to get. I know Andy's been having his fun with the Mets on the Discord and everything. I assume the boys.
Get him, Andy. Get him, Andy.
We can talk about that too. Dave, and Kat and Jeff. I actually I was rooting for the Mets. I'm betting on them every night, and then I meet old baby, and he's like, "I don't get Met magic," and I was like, "Well, it's kind of like 1, 2, 3."
You've been saying it for like 10 years.
It's only been, exactly. It's only been.
And he's like, "Well, every Met fan I know is like negative and pessimistic." I'm like, and then it kind of that got brought up to the Discord board, and I was like, we're posting like Merlin from King Arthur. This great GIF of him like
true story
doing the spell in the books, like put it in the books.
That's great.
Putting books. The books
That's
are
phenomenal.
around. And I used that as a smiley, and Yachts was like, "I love this smiley." And then that day, like it kind of got, I won't say heated. It's the internet for crying out loud, but
Right.
It brought up again. He's like, "I don't believe the Mets are positive. Like Met fans aren't positive." And I was like, Sandy Cat, John in Georgia. Like I was like, "You see how much Vitred posts?" Like, Gator. I was like, Vitred posts like on if the Mets are having a down year, like and they're 10 games out, Vitred's still rah 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 on September 20th, and Vitred was like, "What the fuck's that supposed to mean?" And I kind of flipped. I was like, "You know what? Forget it. No more fucking Met magic. No more 1, 2, 3. No more Ooga." And I was like, I guess the Mets are only winning because of sheer like skill. And so yeah, the Met magic obviously isn't dead, but to me it is. And if you could Google Met magic and you'll find like seat cushions and mugs that say Met magic. So I guess I must be imagining these things.
And it's funny because you've been saying that for years. I remember you bringing it up. I mean, listen, I miss having all you guys to talk to every day, but I know that the Met Magic stuff, you've been saying it for years. You know what I mean? So I thought it was just like a joke or whatever.
I love when UCH, I don't know if he does it on purpose, but he has like these great like hunches. A few years ago when he was like the Met, I think it was the year that they went to the World Series.
In 15?
Kansas City, and he was like, "They're gonna sweep the Nationals." And they swept the Nationals. They just went on the run.
He's great. He's great.
Yeah, but the Mets are, I mean, all kidding aside, and Fids, he knows. I mean, Fiddle knows the Mets inside and out.
Fids knows ball.
They're good, and I know you can get bogged down with like the minutia of the advanced stats, whatever. Brendan Nemo, for example, but they're good. I mean, that game last week against Philadelphia. I mean, that's Met magic in a nutshell. 6 runs in the 9th inning. That's Met magic. And Nemo obviously had the hit, the go-ahead runs, 2-run RBI. Fiddle was actually in the building. He stayed. He didn't leave. He's a good fan.
Good.
Wait, the big comeback?
He was there?
Really? He was in the building?
Yeah.
That's right. You're right
Dave, he didn't even tell us that.
Yeah, that's a good point. He didn't mention that to us in the text or anything. That's a really good point. That's an epic comeback. Holy cow. Wow. Good
now,
for him.
if we were to like nitpick at the Mets, like I think their bullpen could be a little shaky sometimes.
Agreed.
Diaz, Seth Lugo,
Ottavino,
100%. Ottavino.
Yeah.
But I don't even. You can't count on DeGrom. I'm sorry, you can't. But even with or without DeGrom, like that rotation is really, really good. And Showalter, he. Obviously he's going to have to buy into the modern baseball, but part of him, I still think like Carrasco went 8 innings the other day. And
right.
I think they lead the league in like starters innings pitched. So he'll probably have a longer leash than say, the Rays manager, for example,
He will.
So they'll be fun to watch. I think Atlanta will eventually turn around. Atlanta is too good. I love Max Fried. They're too good to kind of.
They're loaded, man. Their offense. I mean, listen. You lose Freddie Freeman, and they win a World Series last year without Ronald Acuna. You lose Freddie Freeman. You bring in Matt Olson. You bring in Acuna. Eventually they're going to start clicking and really getting it going. I think that they're a really good fucking baseball team.
Yeah,
I agree.
And speaking of Freeman, Dave, like it's not like. Obviously, we all know who Freddie Freeman is. He's a fringe Hall of Famer, probably a Hall of Famer now. But it's not like I was watching every Braves game. But not to sound like memes exist. Like he has the type of swing that old callers that
100%.
cream themselves. Like
Mhm.
he has such a beautiful swing, and he sprays the ball. He can hit all around the field, and plays the game the right way. Whatever he does, he fits all those attributes and
What, good leader of men? Is that what you're saying?
What's that?
Leader of
Good
men.
leader of men.
Oh, he's a leader of men. Yeah.
I tell you, all my Mets fan buddies were doing like a happy dance when he left and went to LA. They see him in their nightmares, man. He was a monster against the Mets. So, like you said, sprays the ball all over, gets the big hit, is clutch. He's just a stud. He's built for Hollywood, man. He's fucking built for Hollywood.
He's gonna be great.
He got his new veneers in. He's got the hair going.
He does. He does have Francesa teeth.
He does,
Absolutely.
man. He's built for Hollywood.
I love all this. But let me go step back on the Braves part of that. Like, I couldn't believe the Braves were 14 and 18 going into today.
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. Like, this is way too
Happened
talented
last year,
team to be.
too.
They're gonna totally turn that around. I completely agree with you. They're gonna be
Morton
good.
hasn't been Morton. They still. I think Soroka's still on that team, right? He's got a.
Oh, you mean the manager?
Yep.
No. I'm
No,
sorry,
no, the pitcher.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Soroka.
Yeah, he's been fighting
but
some
obviously
injuries.
Freed
Yeah.
and Wright are good. They just kind of spinning in their own mud for a little bit.
Little bit of a World Series hangover, maybe. You think?
Yeah, a little bit. I think they'll be fine though.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like April, you never know about April. And Freed is notoriously slow.
Yes, he is.
Right. Good
He
point.
pitched lights out in LA a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he pitched good the other day, his last start against the Bucks, the Brewers. So they'll be fine.
Totally.
Yeah. What do not to switch subjects here, but Andy, I'm super high on on the Mariners, man. I love Julio Rodriguez. I love some of the mojo they got going over there. I picked them to win that division. I'm very, very high on the Mariners, man.
Well, I have them winning 84 and a half games. That's my bet. So, I mean, they struggled. They've been on a pretty lengthy slump, but you got to just.
It's early. I think they'll get it. I think they'll get him.
You got to just kind of ride through it. Last year they were winning all those games by one run, and so last week they lost like 4 games in a row to Tampa, all by one run. So it all evens out.
Yeah, 100%.
So Julio Rodriguez, he's just a baby, but
he's gonna be a stud.
He has it.
He's gonna be a stud.
I don't know how to describe it, but he's got a really nice swing. He's got a, you hear. I don't know what you take.
He's got it. He's got it.
The it factor. Yes.
Yeah. Logan Gilbert's fucking nasty.
Gilbert reminds me of like what a healthy. What's the guy that was on Glass? He's like he kind of reminds me of
Glass now. Yo, he's nasty.
He hasn't gotten hurt yet. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah.
Gilbert's a stud. Obviously, Brash got sent back, but he still has.
He's gonna be good. Yeah.
He'll be fine. Robbie Ray, I think he's kind of trying too hard, but he'll be fine too.
He'll get there, yeah.
He won the Cy Young last year. The guy that they called up on Sunday, Kirby, guy.
He looked nasty, man. I tried to pick him up in my keeper league. He was taken. I was like, shit.
Yeah, George Kirby.
Yeah.
So their rotation is very young and inexperienced, except for Robbie Ray and little Marco Gonzalez. He is what he is, and
he is what he is.
Yeah, ain't bad, but between Gilbert and Kirby, the future's bright for him. And obviously, I say it as a joke, but it's true. Like Ty France is a guy that Mike would cream himself over too.
Yeah, he's really good, man.
I can't
really
wait
good. He's like McClouth, whatever.
Yeah,
except those are that kind of guy.
He actually produces. Ty France, another guy. He hits the ball everywhere.
Yeah.
He's he's got the good looks. So the Mariners actually play at the Mets next week, I think. So.
Oh, cool.
That's a good series. Wow.
That'll be that.
East Coast will actually get to see him.
Right. If people don't play fantasy baseball or follow every night, they don't realize how good some of these guys are. And obviously, we all follow. So I saw Logan Gilbert last year, and I was like, dude, this kid is really good. Really nasty. So
Gilbert's a stud. And then they're as Dave knows, notoriously the Mariners. Achilles heel is like hitters.
Yeah.
And their lineup has some pretty ugly numbers. But like the two guys they got from the Reds, I
was just gonna say Winker, whose a career has good numbers, has really struggled, man.
Yeah. He's had some like loud outs or whatever you want to call it, like, you know.
That's another thing I want to ask you guys about, like some of this analytics. Like, I think watching the game, it still brings a lot of meaning. Like Joey Gallo, I look at his like StatCast page, like early in the season, he's hitting the ball hard. But they play like 5 guys on the right side. He can hit the ball 150 miles an hour all he fucking wants. It's going to be hit either at somebody, or if he hits it over the second baseman, the left field, like it's not going to matter. He's going to strike out 40% of the time. Then when he puts the bat on the ball, even if it's hit hard, there's 4 people where he's hitting the ball. So like people are like, oh, he's going to get results. He's going to get results. The only way he's going to get results is if he lifts the ball over the fucking fence, and he has like 2 homers. So like, I mean, it's deceiving to look at some of the stats and look at some of the pages. You know, when I'm watching the game and I'm like, all right, he hit the ball 111 miles an hour, but there were 2 people standing right there. Like he's not getting a hit in that spot. You know what I mean? So what do you guys take on like the analytics side of it? And, you know, I have a lot of Yankee fans preaching to me and a lot of baseball fans preaching to me. Well, and I do it as well, you know, because I watch this, hey, Donaldson's hitting the ball hard. He's due. But, you know, somebody like Gallo or some of these guys who, you know, maybe their savant page looks good, but you just know like that it's not going to yield results unless they hit the ball over the fence.
Yeah. Dave, you want to go first?
Wow, good question. First, let's give a shout out to our friend Kevin on the Cape. He's in the chat. He says everyone will punch Donaldson in the face during that brawl. Let's go fucking Mets. I love that. Mets look good. I gotta say, man, I can't say anything bad about them right now. You did mention the bullpen, which I think is fair. But so on the topic of the analytics, yeah, the numbers can be very deceiving, can't they? I think I was just in fact, it's interesting you asked that question, Andy and Jared, because like. I was just talking about the Blue Jays, and I really do think that's a very classic example of where those numbers can be misleading. Do they do it in a big spot? Do they do it against good pitching? So far, my impression has been no. I don't think so. And so it just depends on context, where you're hitting, who you're hitting against. You know, like you mentioned the it factor. You know, for a long time, Mookie Betts had that it factor. It's like you were always afraid because he'll do something with the ball. He's not just going to sit there and strike out all the time. Or most of the time. Even if he doesn't have a good game, he might still do something. He might still make a great catch. Of course. He might still steal a base. Numbers don't tell that story. There's still a lot of factors to what a baseball player can be besides just the analytics. The analytics tell a lot of the story. So they're obviously important. But I think there are other things that require just watching the game. Like, you just got to see it. Like, you know, like another good example of like where numbers can be misleading is like pitcher reliever ERA.
Correct. Yeah.
It's always good. It's like, so what the hell does that mean? Oh, a guy has a 2 ERA. It means shit. Sometimes they're terrible. Like,
bro, he'll come in and he'll let up the 2 runs, like inherited runner score.
Yeah.
And then he leaves with like a win. Like, it's crazy. Yeah.
So, Andy, I don't know if that fleshes it out for you, but, you know, certainly I have seen, you know, there's more than meets the eye to every stat you see with any player. And this is true of all sports, but it's certainly true in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, when you say analytics, at this point, it's so vast. You could have like 8 shows about analytics. And I will say about like velocity, like, you know, the speed of the baseball, like on contact and launch angle, all that. It's great. It's useful. I just don't think it should be the be all end all. And
right.
Part of why baseball has been baseball for so long. It's fun when your team or the team you root for, the team you gamble on, whatever, the neutral, your eyes, whatever. Like when you see a team like bingle another team to death in an inning, where they score like 4 runs and none of the balls are hit hard. You know, the balls are getting fisted in between shortstop and center field, and just blue pits. That's part of the game too, and it kind of balances out like the 3-run home runs. We like to see all of that, and when it comes to the shift, I'm not like anti-shift is like some of my other opinions with like bullpenning and starting pitchers and stuff, but you know, I don't hate the shift as much as some of the other like anti-shift people. The shift is like, if I was a pitcher, like, and I'm sure they talk about this, but let's say, you know, you're facing a lefty, and so your infield is all shifted towards, you know, first and second base, and you end up like, you're facing a lefty hitter and the ball's on the outside corner of the plate. Well, like chances are that ball's going to end up on the left side of the infield, and there's no third baseman there. So, if a pitch that's what happens too. These pitches are human. Like the pitches get away from them, and the pitch that's supposed to go like inside ends up on the outside of the plate. And then a conventional infield alignment, that'd be an out. But because of the shift, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't sometimes. Yeah. But I'm not saying like information bad, but you can definitely get like paralyzed by overanalyzation. That goes with everything in life, not just like baseball analytics. That can be like, with girls, with your job.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right.
But when it comes to like baseball and all that stuff, yeah, you gotta watch the game with your eyes too. And in terms of Dave, you mentioned like relievers, and eventually we're gonna get to the point where like this no name, spring training like guy that, let's say he strikes out Freeman like 3 times in a grapefruit league game. Like, is he gonna like? Well, he'll be the
Freeman guy.
So we gotta call him up for just for that Dodger series. I know I say that as a joke, but like. We're not that far off from it where we just overemphasize some of these small sample size like splits. And when it comes to pitch count and stuff, and I know the hard-headed analytic guys are like, no, like, well, okay, former athlete says this, therefore we must listen to this. But I don't know how many former starting pitchers say there are outings where I throw 70 pitches and I feel like I ran like a marathon. And there are outings where I throw 110 pitches and I feel fresh as a daisy. Like, what, we're not supposed to believe him, and we're not supposed to like think that actually happens? Of course it happens. It happens, and it's not just in baseball. It can happen like in other sports too, where like short bursts of energy like will wear an athlete out, whereas like they could play a triple overtime game in basketball and feel fresh as a daisy,
Sure. And to kind of piggyback off that a little bit is I do believe like whether like Andy, you made a point, whether it's in sports, whether it's in life or in fashion, like, things end up like cycling, like coming back into quote unquote style. I think that eventually you're going to be seeing some more teams who seek guys who put the bat on the ball. Like I will always think that some of the other stats do outweigh batting average. I was never one of these guys that, hey, batting average doesn't matter. Sure, I weigh OPS, WRC plus, on base percentage maybe higher than batting average. But you're going to see, I'm telling you, you're going to see guys or teams start to look for people who make contact, put the balls in play, put the bat on the ball. You're going to look for that. I really think that's going to cycle back in. I think I start to see it a little bit more now. And I think the thing that baseball is missing too, as far as the grow the game aspect, is I remember when I was younger, back in 03, 02, 01, and whether it's a playoff game or even a primetime game, and you're able to bill a starting pitching matchup like a heavyweight fight, right? Like Clemens, Pedro, or Randy Johnson against Maddox, whatever it was. We don't have a lot of that anymore, because it's either a lot of openers that are involved, or you have starters that are conditioned to only go 4 or 5 innings. You build your rotations different. Sure, there are still aces in the game for sure. Mm-hmm. But if it's going, if you're game 1 of the ALCS and it's Clemens, Pedro, those guys are going to want to go 9 innings. Where now they're not going to be allowed to go 3 times through the order. You got a guy up in the 4th inning. It's a completely different feel, I think, as far as going into some of those games. I think that hurts baseball.
It does hurt baseball. And the question is, from the standpoint of the front office, is it really helping the pitchers stay healthier? And I don't think it is, to be honest with you. Don't you see people still getting hurt? People still in the
absolutely
with ACL tears? So what exactly are they gaining by doing this?
Yeah. So
it's the analytics.
Is it? So just to kind of expand on this, and this is what I love and hate about baseball. I love the starting pitching matchups, like ace versus ace. And like even the casual baseball fan in 2001, 2002, whatever, as Captain pointed out, like they knew who Zito, Mulder, and who was the other guy on the A's for a while.
Hudson, yeah.
They knew those guys.
Yeah.
They knew the 2005 White Sox rotation of Burley, Gurley, Garcia, and Jose Contreras and Garland. You know, they knew all them. Like,
think about Tim Lincecum. He was must-see TV.
Yeah. Lincecum and Kane. Kane not so much, but Lincecum for sure. All the Lincecum Kershaw matchups. And Cap, like you mentioned, like Yankees 1 through 14, like, and it's true, like they have a shutdown bullpen, but you think like the even like in whatever the step the between diehard and casual baseball fan, like you're gonna ask them to know everyone's like 1 through 14, like that's not gonna happen. Like,
no, it's not gonna happen.
Like a big Minnesota Twin fan, like he knows his 1 through 14, like he might not know the Yankees 1 through 14. Like Tampa, as good as they are, like Kitteridge, for example. Kitteridge.
Andy, I can tell you right now, if we have a 3-game series against Tampa, I don't know who the fuck they're going to start. Like, I have no and I watch every day. I'm in 3 fantasy baseball leagues. I don't know. You know, it's
they don't know sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Starting like the next game. It's like, and that it kind of drives you nuts. Like
it is. It really does.
And so I know Fitz. He'll probably listen, and he'll be like, you want every team to have a Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling and like the 2001 Diamond. I'm not asking for that, but I just want like a stick-to-itiveness to the rotation. Like, it's not too long ago where they would bump the 5th starter if there was an off day, just so the ace can pitch on his regular, 4 days rest. And so that 5th starter would only maybe get like 26 starts a year, and the first starter would get like 33 to 35 starts, maybe even 36, 37.
Yeah.
Those days are long gone. I get that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Dave, your point about like preventing injuries, we baby the heck out of Syndergaard in DeGrom, and that hasn't really we haven't seen the fruits of that labor, have we?
Nope.
Severino, Glasnow, a lot of these big pitchers get hurt, man.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I'm sure down the road there'll be some sort of study, like, did they get overused as like playing
teenager
AAU league teams? And because I think in college they probably only go in 6 innings too. But so I don't know.
I wonder, Andy. I wonder if it's ever going to get to a point where when you're in the draft and you're looking to draft somebody, that they dig into how many travel teams you're on, how many AAU games you played, how much wear and tear really is on that arm. I wonder if they eventually are going to dig that deep. And there's, like you said, some studies could come out. I wonder if they're going to dig that deep and say, hey, this guy's a risk for this, a risk for that. It's going to be interesting because times are changing, man. They're finding information on everything. Now I think, you hear more about spin rate than you do about velocity. And 5 years ago, no one knew what the hell spin rate. I mean, not a lot of people knew what spin rate was. I mean, it's crazy how times are changing year by year, information-wise.
Yeah. I don't know how you fix grow the game. Like, I'll always like baseball,
right,
and watch baseball. If I didn't gamble, I don't know, maybe not as much. But there's something to be said about baseball. Not to sound like Mike, whatever, but it starts when winter's thawing out, and it ends when the days start getting dark and the leaves get crispy, and it's there with you every day. If you have a shitty game, it sucks. But it's there, and you can listen to the game. You can zone out for an inning or two. It's always there, and like other baseball fans in your city and your neighborhood, you're all just kind of riding that same bike or whatever you want to call it, and so that part will always be there. But in terms of growing the game, or I think, not to expand too much, the way the youth consume stuff, baseball might not be there. It's just not there for them, because I have a 12-year-old half brother. He's on his phone. He's watching people play NHL 95 or whatever on YouTube. He'll play he'll play the league or whatever it's called, the show. And he knows a ton of NHL hockey players, but he's not watching the Houston Astros every night. He's not listening to the Astros every night. He's not reading the box scores like we were every day.
Right.
And you can showcase Trout, Freeman, judge bets all you want. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna be. Like they have the diehard fans. You don't really need to do anything to like the diehard fans are gonna stay regardless of what happens.
Agreed.
In terms of getting new fans, I'm not sure what you do.
Andy,
I'm not smart enough.
I have, and I actually texted Dave and Fiddle on this months ago on because I was going to do a whole podcast on what my beef is with baseball and how they can help not fix the game, but grow the game. I think baseball does a disgusting job with how they present and market Major League Baseball. I mean, Andy, to be honest with you, like my days are crazy. Sometimes if there's a primetime basketball game on at 10 o'clock, I won't even watch the first quarter. But what I do is the first thing I wake up, I open my phone and I go to House of Highlights. I see every highlight. I see the score. I see not only on that, whether it's on different Twitter pages, whatever. Major League Baseball has none of that. Omar from House of Highlights has millions and millions and millions of followers. NBA invites him to games. NFL invites him to games. Baseball doesn't have anything like that. I think that baseball, talent-wise, is in extremely good hands. How they accentuate and market that talent, I think, is very poor. And I think that part can change. And you mentioned the big thing, Andy. You mentioned gambling and fantasy. Fantasy football, they make an absolute killing. There's moms that do it, dads that do it, females that do it. Baseball barely puts any effort towards their fantasy. Even they put a little bit of effort. Maybe it might not be the groundswell that football has, but you might be able to get some new eyes on the sport. Everybody likes to gamble. Not everybody, but a lot of people like to gamble. A lot of people like to play fantasy. If baseball ever accentuated that, I think that'd be a big thing. The gambling side of it too. You know, I saw that on MLB Network. They're starting to do like odds and some different like gambling shows. Like that needs to happen. Maybe even like DraftKings kiosks at different games where you could put in different prop bets, whatever it is, something that gets eyes on the game, because I think the talent is really good. Nobody fucking knows.
Yeah. And
I think that baseball and Rob Manfred do a really bad job. And I have a lot of other gripes with the way that the game is being portrayed and the way the game is being played and how it's being, you know, quote unquote grown. But I'm not going to hijack the podcast with that because I got a whole list, but I just wanted to piggyback off some of your points.
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head of that. And like, yeah, personally, like I played fantasy baseball before fantasy football. I was a heavy baseball gambler. Like if you gave me gun to my head, I could only bet on one sport for the rest of my life. It's baseball. Like I just maybe
every night
night I find like, and Tommy's like, well, you like every baseball team. Like I just like betting on like, I like looking at the starting pitching matchups and like, oh baby, would call me a fool. Like you don't look at the data enough. Like, if I see Logan Webb going against Mike Clevinger, I'm going Logan Webb.
Right. You know,
And I know even though Logan Webb, though he's a sinker ball pitcher, he could actually go 7 innings. Like because he doesn't
get the ground balls,
pitches,
contact.
Yeah. Like I know Logan Webb probably gonna go 7 innings, and Clevinger probably only gonna go 5 or 6 innings. I'll take my chances.
I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. And I'll always like, you know, if Kershaw on the road, you can usually the odds aren't too outrageous, and you know, it's just I just like stuff like that. And to your point about how they present it, I don't know. Like they have, it's probably too much work for some of these people. Like you can go on MLB, the at-bat app, and they have like the truncated versions of the game where I think it's just like, I don't know what they call it. Like No Labels used to talk about. I think you have to produce them.
Yeah, you're right. I watched those.
Game was like 30 minutes. It's still 30 minutes, but like you can watch like every out and hit and run. Like,
but you know, like I know, Andy, you mentioned your 12-year-old half brother. Like everybody's on Twitter, everybody's on Instagram, everybody's on TikTok, and I think baseball does minimal effort towards all social media platforms. Like very minimal effort. And I think if they were able to kind of push that and see like Ronald Acuna hit a home run and do the LeBron James thing, like younger kids would be into that. You know what I mean? Like they like that kind of stuff. And I just don't think it's marketed good enough. And hey, maybe it still wouldn't be enough to get, you know, the amount of eyes on baseball that we think could be on baseball, but you know, who the hell knows?
Yeah. It's something they'll have to, I don't know if they have to figure it out, but it would.
Fuck!
Uh-oh.
How the fuck do you let Vlad score from first? Aaron Hicks has a fucking noodle. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. I see
No worries, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. 4-3.
4-3 Toronto.
They let Vlad score from first.
Oh my goodness! Are you Vlad Guerrero
Yeah,
Jr.?
Vlad. Yes.
I can't even visualize how that could have happened.
I know.
He's almost as slow as his father was. I remember Vlad Sr.
Yeah, he was slow.
So
Toronto's impressed. So last year, I know their defense got like LOL, like Blue Jays defense, but I don't know, like Bo Bichette, he made a ton of errors last year, but
Yeah, he did.
Their lineup.
Matt Chapman makes their defense better.
Yeah.
Matt Chapman, but I mean, it's crazy because Marcus Semien last year he's an MVP candidate, you know. So when they lost him, I was kind of relieved, and I know he's not doing great this year, but he was an absolute Yankee killer, and I was like, oh, thank God he's not there anymore. Matt Chapman was awful last year, obviously, but I thought that losing Semien was like a win for us, and so far, I mean, Chapman hasn't been great, but Simeon's been awful. But yeah, their defense last year wasn't great.
To your point about spending money the right way, like I guess if you sell your soul, you go to Texas, right? See,
oh my God,
Texas
yeah.
did not spend the money the right way, but they have like those two contracts are pretty crazy for Seaman and Seager.
Yeah,
And they have no pitching to speak of. They're
in trouble, man. I mean, what are they gonna? I mean, Jack Leiter obviously is there in the minors, but you know, what are they gonna do? You know, if Seager and Semien are not the players that they thought they were gonna be, they spent a boatload of money. I don't know. I have to look and see what their farm system's looking like, but that could be dead money on their payroll for, you know, if things don't turn around for the next couple of years. They're a bad team this year. Like they're not a good team this year.
they are.
They're always pretty bad. I mean, they have some good years. Obviously, that World Series year, Nelson Cruz.
They were loaded that year. They should have won a World Series that year. They had Cruz, Hamilton,
Cliff
who else
Lee.
did they have? Cliff Lee. Yeah, they were loaded. That I mean, that offense. I just remember that Ian Kinsler when he was like really good. They had a really, really good team. Adrian Beltre, I think they had too.
Yep.
They had a really, really good team, and the fact that Nelson Cruz couldn't play a fly ball, they should have a ring.
Future Hall of Famer Nelson Cruz, right? Don't you think so?
I mean, the steroid thing might play a factor.
Okay, well,
I don't know.
That's fair.
But I think he should be. He's 40 years old, and he's been productive his whole career.
Yeah, he's at this point. The Hall of Fame is officially the Hall of Very Good, and I mean, it was bound to happen.
What was the breaking point for you, Andy, with that as far as the
Hall of Very Good? Just because there's so many, you know, as the years go by, there's more people getting into it, and I think it's that way with football. It's that way with basketball. Like I don't know, like I know Leo jokes about, but you could make a new wing in Cooperstown and just like you have the Hall of Fame of like greatness, and then the Hall of Very Good. But I don't know, Fiddle, God bless his soul. Like there's another metric now that measures like Hall of Fame worthiness, and it's
really,
it's
wow.
He talked about it on the other place, but it's like you just take your WAR from like, you know, it's like a golf handicap where you take your 8 best scores out of the 20 most recent rounds, whereas this is like you take your 5 best WAR out of like your 15 of your best years or something. I don't know, but he was doing it with Joe. Yes, him and Brett were talking about Joey Votto.
Okay.
And Fitz did like the calculations, and he was like, "Yeah, Joey Votto, based on like this metric, is a Hall of Famer."
Listen, I don't think you need the metrics to tell me that Joey Votto's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
I think that was pretty clear to me.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
But I'm glad he went through all that effort. But
I agree with you there, Dave.
Yeah,
for sure.
Votto's was an all-timer. He's great. It's just a shame he's been on all those shitty Reds teams for his entire career. Like it would have been nice to have him on a good team. He's so good.
Yeah.
He used to be really good at defense too. Like it was just.
Oh, he was the, like, you know, he obviously hit for average. He got on base at a crazy clip. He had power. He was one of the best first basemen in the game for a very long time. And I think last year he had a really big resurgence too. I'd have to go back and look at his numbers, but I think he had a really good year last year.
I buy that. I mean, his OPS has been very consistent throughout his career. Like he did have one bad year though. I think it was not that long ago, a couple years back, I think. But overall, he's been amazing. All right, so here's a big question.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm going to keep it positive. I'm not going to talk about the Nationals. I feel bad for Nationals fans, though. My goodness, they are trash. I feel so bad. They have almost nobody. Like Soto, and that's about it.
That's it. Soto, Josh Bell, it's about
That's
it.
pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Cubs, kind of a similar scenario. Like, Bryant's somewhere else now. Rizzo's somewhere else now. You're left with Hendricks, who had a miserable start. He did have a great start on Monday. We did.
Yeah,
Captain,
he did.
I know that
He did.
very well.
He did. And the thing I've argued about Fitz for years with that fucking Jason Hayward contract. I said it was god awful. He's like, you deserve it, and now look, terrible contract.
He's so bad.
Yeah. Now there's no defending it now, right? Like he's been. I forgot that he's still there.
I know. You almost forget. I know. Sorry to cut you off, Dave.
But yeah, it's a terrible scenario for the Cubs. I mean, what went wrong with them? I'm really fascinated by that. Like, it's just. It's hard to explain. Like, you thought that they were loaded? You thought that they had good things going with the farm? I have no explanation for really how
when they started to sell off, Dave, I thought maybe it was a little premature when they were talking about selling, but yeah, I was never the biggest Baez guy, but obviously Rizzo and Bryant are two very good players, and I guess they felt like they weren't going to want to pay them, and they were getting older, so it was better to try and get something for them and tear it down. But listen, they go and sign Marcus Stroman, who's god awful, and he's hurt now, and he's probably blocked half of Chicago on Twitter. But yeah, man, they don't look to be in a good spot right now.
No. Okay, so let's go back to the positive. So here's the big question: are the Mets for real? Are the Angels for real? They both look terrific right now, and not only just like they just got hot, they look like very talented teams. The Angels lineup has the top WRC plus team. It's early, but the top WRC plus rating out of all the teams in MLB right now, with a WRC plus team ranking of, I believe, 122. It was really good, really good. And the Mets, what can you say about them? Like, you've got Max is still Max, which just blows my mind. I thought he would be falling off by now, but boy, what a great job!
Best contract, maybe one of the best contracts in baseball history.
Yeah,
he was good early. He was good his whole time through his big contract, and now he's good again through another big contract. You rarely see that. Yeah,
it's a good spot. So, Andy's been kind of. Are you watching the Red Sox game as we speak?
I have the Braves. I'm watching the Red Sox.
Verlander has a no-hitter going on too.
Oh my goodness!
So, Dave, the reason why I'm not watching hockey on my computer with you guys is because last time, I have it. No, it's with MLB.TV, and I need to ask Fiddle this. Don't get a fucking yes. I don't know. So, if you're watching an MLB game on the MLB.TV on mute, the commercial sometimes plays sound, and I didn't want to fuck up your program, Dave.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. That's happened to me a lot.
Sometimes that happens on ESPN, too. So, anyway, I'm just following the hockey I'm having a terrible gambling night, but we'll live.
No. Oof.
We need the Braves to come back, but
okay.
We'll be all right. We'll be all right. But
well, there's one run. Yeah, there you go.
You asking, gun to my head, who's more real? The Mets or the Angels?
Well, just are they real for real? I think
the Mets. I think the Mets are 100% real. 100% real. They've got the lineup. It's a pretty good lineup.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get when Fiddle says Sterling Marte's if you take away stats, Sterling Marte is the best baseball. He said that. Some announcer said that, and he's been using that.
I don't understand what that means either.
If you take away stats, the best-looking baseball player in the game is Sterling Marte.
I guess because he's ripped or athletic-looking. I don't know.
Maybe, but be that as it may, they got a great lineup. McNeil, I don't know how long he'll keep it up, but he's a hitting machine. They got a very well-rounded team, and obviously you just got to watch out for the Met month, negative stuff, injuries that could happen to any team. Angels, they've got I think their rotation can be. I don't really think they have much of a rotation. Ohtani is never gonna be a 200-inning pitcher. I don't think.
No, he's not.
They are very fragile with him, and for every 6-inning, 12 strikeout performance, he'll either go through these periods where he only hits and play, he's like a DH for a month straight, or he has a horrendous performance like he did against the Yankees last year, where his innings, he doesn't pitch enough innings, like, so his ERA, like that one outing, like fucked up his ERA for a very, very long time. But their lineup, Dave, as you mentioned, is very good, and any lineup with Trout and Ohtani is very formidable.
Rendon too, yeah.
Rendon, I forgot about Rendon, and the guy that looks like who's the guy?
Ward, right?
For a while, the Jason Worth lookalike with the long hair.
Jared Walsh.
Walsh.
Yeah. And they have Ward, who's been phenomenal. He's one of the best offensive players this year so far.
Yeah, I just worry about their rotation and their bullpen.
Reasonable thing to worry about.
You can say that about a lot of teams.
Yeah.
That's why bullpens are bullpens. Like,
right. You have a good point. I mean, it's sort of like, who has a good bullpen this year? Dodgers do.
The Yankees do.
Yankees, yeah, another one. But they're not a lot. You have a point. Like someone's flawed everywhere.
Like you have to be someone like Fiddle. You have to be a diehard Tampa fan to like know the ins and outs of that pitching staff. It's not even I don't even call it a rotation or a bullpen. It's just a staff.
Yeah.
Because
you're right.
It's Brian Kenny's wet dream where you're gonna close one game, then you're gonna be like the bulk guy. You come in after the opener, then you might be the opener, then you might be like the high leverage in the fifth inning guy. It's crazy. It's so crazy, and so they're trying to stretch out like Yarbrough or whatever. It's just I don't know. McClanahan's legit though. Like
he's our guy, Dave. We got him.
Be like a real bona fide like 6-7 inning
stud.
Guy.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, I dig that. All right. I think that's a pretty good place to more or less wrap things up. I mean, if there's anything else you want to bring up, we can go around the table and see if there's anything else you want to get into. Cap, I'll go to you first.
No, listen. Anytime you want to jump on here and do a baseball podcast, it was great. I love both talking and seeing you and Andy. So got nothing else, man. Probably pour one more scotch, settle in, and hopefully Yankees pull this out, and definitely would like to do this again. It was great.
I appreciate you, Cap. Thank you so much for doing this. Andy, two things. One, I don't know if I wrote it on the Discord thing today, but man, I called it with Miami today. Boy, did I call that. Holy shit, I called that. My goodness. You knew that Harden was going to do that again. But anyway, I'll give it to you for any
did Harden have a horrendous shooting game?
He did in the game before, but I
haven't looked at the box score though.
Well, regardless, the team was not shooting well. Like they were terrible tonight. They couldn't buy a 3. It was terrible. Anyway.
Doc Rivers. No, final thoughts. No, I love the baseball. I love the baseball shows. I like you got to get Fids on at some point.
We all got to do it. We all have a round table.
Could not agree more.
I would say it's early, but I like to say a lot of things tongue in cheek. It's early, but like all of a sudden, next thing you know, it'll be the middle of June. I like breaking up the season in thirds, like April, May, June, July. June, July, the guts of the summer, and then August, like the first half of August, still feels like the guts of summer. But there's that time in the middle to late August, and we all know it. Like Dave, you're gonna have your first college podcast. Like, the sun angle changes. There's like flirtations of cool, like crisp parts of the breeze or whatever. And summer's coming to an end, and the baseball season changes.
You get that feeling.
And it goes
Absolutely.
into September, and you're fighting with the NFL. But yeah, this as long as the baseball season ends, like, and it lasts, it can go pretty quick too. And the last thing I'll say is like. I love looking at the standings like a weirdo sometimes, and it's always like the AL Central teams that have played like 3 games, sometimes even 5 games fewer than like the teams that have played the most because of all the delays. And April AL Central games, they all look the same. Like no one's in the building. There's trash flying around because it's windy, and it's like, is this Chicago? Is this Cleveland? Is this Minnesota? And it's like 2-1. But that's part of the charm of that AL Central. Like, it just no one's there. There's Detroit. There's rainouts all the time.
Snow.
No, and they all have like 5 games less than like a team like the Angels, who don't have a ton of rainouts.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. That it will balance out, but it is hysterical to see all that stuff in the beginning of the year.
And I say this, like, I think the layoff that the Yankees had fucked them up pretty good.
I agree. I think offensively it really screwed them up a little bit. Hopefully they'll be able to get it back going, but we'll see.
It's a good observation. So last thing I'll say, Andy, I got my travel booked to Seattle in early September. It'll be September 8th through 12.
Oh my, you guys are gonna be hanging out?
Yeah, it looks like now you got a series between the Braves and the Mariners there, but I know it's also the opening weekend of the NFL, so it's gonna be interesting to plan that all out.
Oh, if you're there for those dates in Fried's pit, we'll go. Like, I want to see Max Fried in person.
Yeah, good spot. Okay, we'll do it. I'll hit you up. I'll be there for a while, so I think we can figure out a day in there somewhere. So
yeah,
where are you guys gonna go to watch football?
I don't know. That's a great question,
Dave. If you have like, I know you got like, you're there for the music thing.
Well, we'll figure it out. It's with that many days, I think I can figure it out.
Yeah, we'll go to the bar. We'll go to the bar that I told TR to go to.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, we'll go.
How was that? Good time?
100%.
Oh, I love it.
Awesome, man.
I love it.
Dave Earmuff. But yeah, 100%. He's a good guy. And the board does not. He said that the board. He doesn't have the power for the board to go slower for anybody.
Yeah, I didn't think
interesting.
so.
All right. I mean, like, look, if that's what he says, like, I will take it. We'll see. But fair. I mean, listen, that's. I'm not even gonna speculate on that. Andy, it's good to see you again. Cap, same thing. It's a good time. Cap, let's do this again sometime soon. As you mentioned, we should get Fitz in the mix. We'll reach out to him too. So
let's do it, man.
And Andy, hope to have you back next week too. We'll do our usual thing with the football. The schedule gets released, right? Isn't it getting released
Thursday,
on Thursday?
Right?
Yeah. So we'll have much to discuss.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
fellas. Take it easy, everybody.
Guys. Thanks for having
me.
me.
Good night. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
See you, Jerry.
Take care, fellas.
Later.
Bye, Andy. Bye. Oh, good stuff. All right. So great to see them again. If you missed any part of the show tonight, I mean, you can catch a replay right here on YouTube if you're watching on our YouTube simulcast. Otherwise, we have the podcast for you on the podcast feed, ditcow.com, and you'll have the complete program in audio form for you to take with you wherever you go. So we're glad we had you with us tonight. I appreciate your time here. My name is David Medina. I hope you enjoyed the program. We'll go back to football next week. As we mentioned, the schedule's out, so we'll talk about the schedule and what's to come there. John should be back for that one, and perhaps Ron as well. So if you missed any of our back episodes, check them all out, ditcow.com or youtube.com/ditcow. And the Ditcow Football Show rolls on forward as we get into the NFL offseason. So, and then, as we mentioned, more baseball, more golf, lots to come. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.